Okay, so you got your footage organized on your hard drive, data is managed. Let's now dive into Final Cut Pro. First step, open up Final Cut Pro. Once the software is loaded, this is the screen you will see, and your first step you're going to want to take is come up to File, New, Library. Name this project whatever you want it to be. I'm going to call it BAMF, and then decide where you want to save this to. So like I said, I like to save these project files to the same folder as the footage. So go ahead and save it in the BAMF folder. And over here you'll see your new library has been made. And so our next step will be to import our footage. So you can click here where it says Import Media. Again, locate the footage you want to import. You can add this to the existing event that it's created or create a new one. I'm just going to create a new event called BAMF footage. You can choose to make a copy of all the footage, but I wouldn't recommend that. I would just leave it on the hard drive as is. And if you want to create proxy media, this is where you would do it, and we'll talk about that in another video, but I don't like doing proxies. So we can now go ahead and import selected items. And here you will see your BAMF footage all organized the way it is in your Finder. Now right off the bat, I know I'm not going to be using any photos, so I can just go ahead and delete this. And we're not going to be using that, so I'm just going to delete this. And I can delete my smart collections as well. So there you have it, your new event folder with all of your different footage. If you come up to these icons up here, you can change the way you view these as thumbnails that you can scrub through, or if you click it again, you can just see the file numbers and all the data about the files. And our next step is going to be to create a new project. So go ahead and click New Project here, title it what you'd like, and then click here to use custom settings. And this is where you can decide what resolution and frame rate you want your project to be set in. Because I shot my footage in 4K, I'll be finishing this project in 4K. If you shot it in 1080, then you'd want to select 1080p. But I'll stay on 4K. Now my 1DX Mark II shoots 4K, not Ultra HD, so I'll select the exact resolution that it shoots in. And I make all of my timelines 23.98 frames per second. Even though I shot all of my footage at 60 frames, I always make my timeline 23.98 frames per second. Now, if you're shooting broadcast or something for TV, you might be doing 29.97 frames per second. But for that cinematic Hollywood look, I recommend choosing 23.98 frames per second. And then I'd keep everything else the same and go ahead and click OK. Alright, so now you see your timeline has been created, and now we can start dropping our clips in there and editing them. Now some people like to scrub through the clips individually up here and say, okay, that's a spot I like, and then drag it in here individually. Personally, I think this way takes longer, so I don't prefer doing it this way. I personally like to drag all of my clips at once into the timeline. So I come up here to my BAMF footage, select a clip, and then push Command A, and that will select every clip that I've shot, and then I just drag them on into my timeline. But before I start editing any of the footage, I want to make sure I conform all of the footage to 24 frames per second. Because I shot this in 60 frames per second and I want it to be slowed down, I want to make sure to highlight all of the clips, come up here to this clock icon, click on it, and then select automatic speed. And what that will do is automatically adjust every clip according to its frame rate and conform it to 24 frames per second. So because these were shot at 60 frames, it automatically slowed them all down by 40%, conforming them to 24 frames per second. And you'll see every once in a while a clip that I shot at 24 frames per second, so it says these are already at 24 frames per second, so we're just going to keep it at 100%. That step is the equivalent to interpret footage in Premiere Pro, so if you're wondering how to interpret your footage, that is how you would do it in Final Cut Pro X. Another difference in Premiere Pro is if you shot any of these clips in a different resolution, if you're in Premiere Pro, it forces you to scale to frame size and adjust all your 1080p clips up to 4K. Something nice about Final Cut Pro X is it automatically adjusts your clips to scale to frame size. So you'll see here these clips were shot in 1080p, so it automatically adjusted them to the frame. You see there's still some black bars on the side here because these are shot at 16:9, whereas my 1DX Mark II clips shoot at 17:9. Now if you want to change the way you view these clips in your timeline, you can come over here to this film strip, and you have a few different viewing options for how you see the clips. You can see you can take away the audio, so it's just the video clip showing down here. And if you want to see it better, you can expand that and drag that up so you can see every clip individually, which is kind of nice. I would recommend something in the middle like this so you can see both the image and the audio. So there you have it. That is how you start a project. You are now ready to begin editing your footage. If you have any further questions, please let me know.